Folks, Lou here. I'm going to talk about fog of war on your own side, as opposed to what we usually talk about, which is fog of war about what the other side are doing. Now, what does this amount to? It amounts to it's difficult for a general to know the actual capabilities and sometimes even the actual whereabouts of his own forces, his own units. And there are a number of reasons for this. Some of it is honest mistakes. As simple as units getting lost, which happens in the real world. Panic is another one. When units panic, it's hard to get accurate information about where they are and what they're doing. But sometimes people lie when they report what's happening. They lie to make themselves look good, telling bosses what they want to hear, which apparently is an endemic problem in Russian forces and one of the reasons why they've done so poorly in Ukraine. You can go back further and talk about lying about strength, inflating your strength in order to get a larger payroll so you can skim the money off. That's not an uncommon thing, or was not an uncommon thing back when. So the result is you don't know exactly where some of your units are. You don't know how numerous they are. You don't know what their morale is. You don't know how well they're supplied. In other words, you just don't know how capable they are or not capable. And this is a very rare thing in games. It's much more common to not know those things about the enemy. Think about friendly fire. You don't have friendly fire in games, but you certainly do a lot in the real world. And the friendly fire comes because you don't know where your own units are, or panic, or other things. And partly in games, you don't see that stuff because in games, players want to control what happens. They want to feel that their fate is in their hands, that what happens to them is because of what they did. And that's the way game players tend to be. Not all game players, but a lot of them. And that's actually absolutely the opposite of how real wars work. Now, the base problem here is you need to know what reality is in order to fix problems. War is one of the biggest problems of all, and one of the cases where it's really hard to know what's going on. Today, perhaps with drone and satellite reconnaissance, it's easier than it used to be. But that's only today. That's not 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Now, this also affects people who want to think of war as an equation, as a science, correlation of forces and means. This depends on accurate inputs. And if your inputs are bad, for example, your units lie about how successful they've been, or you simply don't know much about the enemy and where they are and so on, then it's going to be difficult for an equation to work because the wrong inputs equal garbage in, garbage out. In this respect, if you're willing to listen to about an hour presentation, an Australian gent named Perun, P-E-R-U-N, has made a video amongst many other excellent videos related to the Ukraine war called How Lies Destroy Armies. Look that up, and it's quite an eye-opener, perhaps, for many people. So the point here, I guess, is we should reflect fog of war on our own side, but generally we don't in commercial games. Now, in military war games, they certainly can and sometimes do, because that gets them closer to reality and closer to what they need to learn about real war. Thanks for listening.